Alright, so I'll be honest, I don't really want to do this right now, but I mean, it just feels appropriate to do because I made a first impressions review of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl when it first came out, and now it's already been like a fucking year, so I don't know, it just seems kind of right to follow up on that. And again, I don't really feel like doing this right now, but what other time would I? And I haven't reviewed or written a script or anything for this, so forgive me if I'm kind of slow to getting to what I want to say or repeat anything or fumble, etc. Anyway, I'll just get to it, and I think I'll start just by kind of reviewing what I was expecting at first when I first played it. And I wasn't one of those idiots. I won't go on this too long because I'm sure I talked about it a lot then, but I wasn't one of those idiots who were expecting it to come out just like fucking Smash Ultimate. With this game, fucking first in the series based on Nickelodeon, made by an actual small indie team, not fucking meme indie team like Game Freak, an actual real one, and being given 2 cents by Nickelodeon to fund it because they don't really understand how making the games work. But yeah, I was keeping mine in check for that and making sure to criticize that kind of shit and not overreacting to the lack of voice acting. Granted, that did give a lot of life to the game once it did finally come out, but it was probably kind of just too little too late, which is most likely going to be the basis of this review. But yeah, I was pretty fucking excited for it though, regardless, and it came out and I played it for a while and I enjoyed it. I was maining Reptar and I was like, yeah, I can't wait for Rocko to come out. And I mean, he wasn't announced at the time, but you knew for sure that he was coming. And yeah, so I was just playing it a lot. Everybody, most people were playing it at the time, and I was overall enjoying myself just going through things for the first time. I didn't dig it as much as Smash Brothers. I did say on there yeah, it's fun, it's fine, but it just feels so much more broken or overly loose, or not as polished and shit as Smash. It feels kind of random at what happens sometimes, and it definitely looked like they were trying to make an effort that to fix it. And yeah, that's something I definitely want to give credit though, regardless of what I say here, is that it definitely absolutely, which is what carried this as it was being developed pre-release, is that it definitely seemed like the staff and developers behind the game directly legit fucking cared. They legit wanted this game to be good and special and have a cool roster and everything. So kudos to all of that, considering I haven't really been following or paying attention to it actively since. But yeah, it came out, I had my fun for a bit, but then I got tired fast, probably just because of how, the online stuff worked. I didn't really have much to play with. I'm sure, overall, for this review, too, if I, actually really had people to play with, I probably would have ended up liking the game a lot better, but here we are, unfortunately. But yeah, I was oh yeah, this is probably the game that I get really good at, the fighting game, and it's oh, main the shit out of Rock when he comes out, and yeah, to put it short, that didn't really last, but it says it's okay. I'll go through it, but anyway, I didn't feel like playing the game much, but when there was an update, when Garfield came out and stuff, I was okay, yeah, I'll play the game again. And I played for a while, and I would go online and see that there's nobody else really playing, and maybe half the game's fault and also half not the game's fault. But yeah, continue updating, they continue trying to balance it and such, again, which I appreciate. They add items, which I didn't really think was that needed, but whatever, they did. And I'll also just go into a point with those items later on that's kind of touching with what I feel about the game overall. But yeah, they kept on happening. They announced a big paid season pass with Jenny, Hugh, and Rocko, which are the wanted characters, so that was cool. At this point of recording, Rocko just came out the other day. I played him. Don't think I'm going to play anymore, but yeah, he's fine from what I saw. I don't know if he's what I would want in, the character who I wanted to main, because Rocko was, the character who I wanted, like, at least in terms of characters who are, like, reasonable to get in and not something super fucking, like, obscure or crazy. I'm surprised he wasn't base, which I'll also get to. Okay, now finally, so all of that came out, and as you can see, I'm not really interested in playing the game anymore or anything, despite the fact that I was, like, trying to be supportive of it and hyping up and stuff, and again, maybe I would like it more if I actually had people to play with, but yeah, after a while, I don't know if it's just because of, like, when it came out and stuff, that I just don't have, like, much, like, good times to associate the game with, and now I'm just, like, I mean, that's kind of like a personal issue, is that I just really hate 2021, but I shouldn't get into that. But yeah, overall, I guess, like, the game just ended up being too mid, and there's, like, no, like, personal reason for me to, like, kind of get into it. And I don't know, I guess I'll just kind of, like, talk about how I feel. Some of this might overlap with what I said originally, but I feel like the game... Okay, first point, obviously it's a platform fighter like Smash Brothers, and, like, they didn't want to just, like, copy it one-to-one, like, I mean, that's just, like, usually what people do, to, like, either just simply be different, or not to be accused of just copying shit, or maybe to avoid legal stuff. I doubt that last one, really, but yeah, there were times where they would take stuff that worked perfectly well in Smash Brothers, but then, like, applying it here, they would change it a bit, and it felt like it was just for the sake of being different, which really isn't necessary, because it just ended up making things seem worse. Like, because it was just, like, already perfectly fine and polished in Smash Brothers. It's like, well, we gotta be different, so let's make it worse here, and the thing I'm talking about isn't even necessarily something that, like, sticks out in, like, competitive play, but, like, with the way items work, like, if the way you have to, like, pick them up in front of you and shit, like, that was just, like, annoying. It's like, oh, really? You guys are just making yourselves look fucking cheap and mediocre making it this way. Maybe they changed it later on, I'm wrong now. That would be good, actually, if I am, but yeah. But, the having, like, the special moves, I mean, not special moves, the strong moves to its own button, like the ones that are basically Smash attacks, that's actually okay. I feel like the, like, very general differences that differ from Smash Bros. Are okay ones, because, like, they're interesting or fun in their own right. Like, I actually do kind of like strong attacks at their own button, and I like the air dashing and shit in this, like, that was all cool, but overall, I just feel like the system of how the fighting works and all of the game's mechanics just feels so fucking, like, unpolished and clunky once you get into it, that it just feels, like, almost random a lot of times, like, or sometimes you do die, and sometimes it just takes one hit for you to die, and that's it. There's, like, hardly any in between. It doesn't feel natural. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense that I would get KO'd now, or that they would survive that, like, how basically the entire, like, Smash series has been. They just couldn't get right here, even though they made Slap City beforehand, where it's like, it seems like every stock, either it's like one hit, bam, they got spiked down to the kill screen on the bottom, or they just fucking are immortal, and everybody's percentage goes up to, like, over 230%, and they don't fucking die until they just randomly do, and usually not even in hit stun, they're just, like, in their neutral area pose, and they do finally fly off screen. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it that made it feel really unfun, and despite it seeming so hectic and random, it didn't make watching the game fun even, because all of my experiences online eventually were just, like, us, like, flying around and, like, avoiding each other. Like, there'd be one character, like, on the bottom main platform, while the other guy's just, like, fucking flying around and hopping from all the different ledges, and the person on top's just trying to fucking desperately hit them with an up move or an fucking up strong, and they're just occasionally getting hit by that. Either they're getting fucked over, and fucking end up getting screwed over by the other person who's, like, flying around, and that was, like, my experience every match. And when I looked at competitive, like, professional 30 level matches for one time, it was the same fucking thing. The same fucking thing was happening. And yeah, I feel like that's ultimately what killed the game for me. Just, like, a lot of stuff that feels either useless or overpowered. Like, for example, I feel like almost every fucking, again, maybe it's just me because I don't know what I'm doing as well as, like, a professional, quote unquote, but regular, normal attacks feel fucking useless in this game. Like, they're quick and they combo, but doing that feels fucking useless because you last forever anyway, despite how fucking high your percentage is, or you just get spiked to the bottom. And it feels like it doesn't feel as well to, like, hit them either because they're also repetitive, and it feels like you could also easily escape from a lot of them, or you'll just suddenly get a really good combo going, and that does feel good. That is fun when that happens, but again, just ultimately feels pointless because it feels like you should just be trying to get that one chance of hitting your opponent with a fucking strong attack, and either you miss and get fucked, or you hit it and there's a 1 in 5th chance they'll die from it. So yeah, that was like a big issue with me. Like, as you can see, my problems with the game didn't come to like roster or voice acting or not much presentation. It does look cheap and generic, but I guess maybe it's the best they can do and doesn't overall ruin the game. I will admit, even the first screen already looks a little bit nostalgic, but it isn't that stuff that's only ruined the game for me in the end, but it was just like the core gameplay mechanics that kind of did it for me, and I don't know if everybody else feels the same, and that's why nobody else played, but again, I feel like it's just people having their expectations too high and be like, well, why do I just play Smash instead, or this corporate multiverse game, because they fucks with the budget. I'm not going to talk about other games right now, though, even if I can be kind of overly passionate and angry and heated about it, but yeah, like, overall, that just kind of, like, ruined my enjoyment for it, and overall, it also just feels like that they were purposely, like, trying to just, like, differentiate themselves too much later on, and being different for the sake of that, and just ended up being, like, weaker than other examples for it. Oh yeah, I want to talk about how fucking overpowered shielding felt, but they eventually added chip damage, but I feel like that was also a little too late thing, which, as I said in the beginning, I feel like was ultimately what killed this game in the end, which is that everything was too little, too late. I had to burp, sorry. But yeah, like, it just came out too underwhelming, like, even with keeping your expectations in check. Like, because I remember them saying, like, oh, we put loads of single-player content there, but when it came out, there was basically nothing, and there still is nothing. I mean, even if it is overall for the first, it's still, I wonder what that was all about. But yeah, it just came out too tiny, too undercooked, and they did eventually add stuff to it, but by the time they were done, it felt like how it was supposed to be, like, at base launch, and by then everybody just lost interest in the game and moved on, and it didn't really care anymore, which is unfortunate, yeah. But I don't know, I feel like this could have been safe if this is some, like, alternate universe where, like, Nickelodeon, like, understood, like, more reasonably and less dumb, typical company shit, with funding the game and waiting for it, where it's like, okay, first of all, for real, they did catch on how popular it got. Like, the reason why DLC was made for this game and, like, considered, like, before it came out was because they saw how everybody reacted to the initial trailer, and they're like, okay, so maybe this will do well, we could do this, and that was cool, but it would have been also nice if they're like, okay, people actually are really looking forward to this game, it's getting really popular from that trailer, maybe we should actually make it good, and maybe we should give the team more time to make it, and some more resources to make sure it really gets, like, well received and sells even more than we could have expected. Like, if they gave this game until this year to come out, it actually could have been really fucking awesome if it launched with, like, the slightly bigger roster and voice acting and maybe slightly refined mechanics, but I feel like most of that they learned from like, watching people play it. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that didn't happen. If I gotta be honest, my most fun part of this game was when that first trailer first released and, like, the memes and shit that came out for it. That was the coolest part, but yeah, like, unfortunately, I guess it just came out at the wrong time and just couldn't get what they needed to make it good. But again, like, I don't know if how much of it was a budget issue, because my core complaints were just simply how, like, the combat works and stuff, and it doesn't necessarily take a budget as much as it takes, like, skill and knowing what you're doing and being able to fix it. But yeah, that basically says what I wanted to say about it. I doubt I'm playing it anytime soon, sorry Rocko, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think more DLC is going to come out for this. I really don't. I feel like Rocko was it, and it just didn't succeed enough to get another season. I just completely doubt it. Maybe I'll be wrong, but even if I'm not wrong and more characters do come out, I really don't know if I'll want to get them and support it or not. And if there's ever a sequel that is just like the roster but more stuff and more stuff fixed, maybe I'll look into it. If it looks really promising, then maybe, but I feel like so many people are just like done with this game that no, they're not going to get the sequel if that happens. That is my final point. I already kind of talked about this in the beginning, but it's kind of stupid how many people just blindly hate in the game despite my criticism still. I'm criticizing and like almost kind of hating on the game right now, but I'm doing it from like a standpoint of somebody who like actually played, and it's like, okay, this is what I think, blah 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 blah, and I was looking forward to it, blah 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 blah. As opposed to people who purposely act stupid and purposely are misinformed when hating the game for no reason, even though they probably never played it, and we're upset that it didn't come out like the fucking 5th installment of Smash Brothers, which is like the biggest fighting game series of all time aside from like Street Fighter. But yeah, this went on way longer than I thought, actually. I feel like I just kind of got my thoughts out. Sorry, that was kind of like pessimistic. But yeah, that's just overall how I felt about the game. I just moved on to other things is all. It should changes. But yeah, I'll see you all next time where I'll probably be doing more bullshit creepypasta stuff for Spook Month. Bye bye.